ICTs and the patterns of normativity there. ICT stands for Information Communication Technologies. So that's that video camera over there, TVs, mobile phones, the internet, stuff that we use every day. Most of us refer to these things as just media technologies. But within the context of development, they're usually referred to as ICTs. So I'll tell you about the one email I had in my inbox this morning. I'm signed on to a group called FAT, which is Feminist Approaches to Technology. It's an NGO in Delhi, and they usually do really cool campaigns around using media technologies and for women's rights. Except that today I saw they've got a new program which is about teaching, giving underprivileged young women in Delhi slums livelihood skills by teaching them how to use computers. And there's a little video and lots of pictures of young women who are working on computers and learning data entry skills. And I looked at it and I thought, okay, this is perfect. Another example of how development uses ICTs but not media technologies. Look at the word that we use, the phrase, the acronym that we use. Media technologies like the internet and mobile phones are seen in terms of the information and communication potential they have. But what the rest of us are doing with our technologies is quite different. We're surfing porn, we're playing games, we're talking to our friends. When you have programs for communities out there, it's almost as if they have no other life where they have any other interest. They only want to learn data entry skills, and they do not want to have any fun, and they're just dying to learn how to use Excel sheets. So there's been a sort of explosion recently, and particularly in many parts of Africa, and I see a lot of it happening in India as well, where mobile phones have become really popular in creating development programming, whether it's to collect research data, disaster management relief, humanitarian aid, reminding people with TB and HIV to take their medicines, things like mesh networking where people share internet connections in places where there's low bandwidth. So it's great because you really have these ideas of everybody sort of getting onto one system, one connection, sharing, and it's democratic. But this other aspect of just play, of just everyday life, somehow that doesn't enter development at all. And one of the interesting areas that people are now starting to look at is how young people in many conservative societies across the world are using mobile phones to navigate the social and cultural taboos around sexuality and gender. So there's studies from Indonesia and India and parts of Latin America where girls who have restricted mobility can use their mobile phones to actually have different kinds of relationships, intimate relationships with people, which are all sexual. Somehow, I sort of think of that and think of the young girls in the Delhi slum who are supposed to learn, data entry skills, and it's very different. I'm wondering, what are those young girls doing? So that's sort of the background on, ICTs and, the way some of us are thinking about it. I've been talking to a community of queer men in Bombay and looking at how they use their mobile phones. They're called Kotis. Kotis are a community that some would say have always existed in India, but the identity, the terminology, it's all heavily contested, because there are some people who will say that Kotis never existed before HIV happened, before queer rights happened. That's a little digression, but I'm just taking Kotis for who they are. They're mostly working class, the people I'm talking to. They're biological males who are attracted to other men. They're attracted to extremely masculine men. They see themselves as more feminine, but not all of them are necessarily very effeminate. There's quite a fluid scale of effeminacy that they display. And many of them are also married with children. So the sex you have and the home you have with your wife is duty, but what you do with men is play and fun and just this other side of yourself. And I've been finding that the mobile phone is extremely popular with Kotis and extremely useful in helping them manage these two lives that they have, or the two worlds that they have. For example, something as simple as a Chinese-made phone with 2 SIM cards in it, one for your family, one for your same-sex community. Or the fact that Kotis who usually have to have, furtive sex in public places in the dark for fear of, being picked up by the police, can now find sexual partners through the phone, or that they can have long-term emotional relationships with other people, with other men, through the phone. They can't go to bars or to movies or restaurants and the way people would just date and have relationships and get to know each other. So the mobile phone sort of presents this opportunity for them to connect. Sex workers, Koti sex workers have many more opportunities to get sex work and to sort of negotiate how they want to make more money, and, especially in terms of competition with other sex work groups and gangs. So, and more than anything else, it's the opportunity to populate this ether with all this speech, all this language, all these text messages and pictures which you're not supposed to do. Well, till 3 weeks ago, same-sex sexualities were criminalized in India. Now it's a little different. However, it's not going to make that much of a difference immediately to Kotis, because the changes in the law have decriminalized private consensual same-sex. Kotis who often have to have sex in public will still get picked up under other laws. So the mobile phone allows them to express identity as well. A lot of people have problems with pornographic text and images, but to the Koti, because their identities have been quite sort of silenced, just being able to say certain words, to send certain pictures, is an affirmation of who they are, and sort of creates a sense of community. And I'm going to wind up now, but what's interesting about mobile phone use particularly is that it also really challenges a lot of our ideas, not only about development, but even this whole discourse about how when we talk about sexuality, we need to make it about pleasure, or we need to look at complex issues. It becomes very hard when the mobile phone becomes a site of violence, for example, or when you have to raise issues of pornography. How do we as people who are part of the development industry start engaging with that aspect of people's lives when they do deal with complex issues like violence? So I think I'm going to stop there.
Thank you.